So today we're going to talk all about body image. I received a comment that asked me about my semi-glutide journey, and I'm happy to be open and candid about it. And I want to also talk more about kind of like gut health and different things that you can do in terms of looking at what's going on with your body. Brittany is an MP and has a lot of experience both from her career, but also from her personal journeys. And then just as a millennial, I think that all of us are kind of like ingrained in the diet culture. And I think it's really important to open up and talk about what experiences we went through, how that's affected us. I'm so sorry. The light is doing a whole weird shadow on my face, but you know what? It's good lighting. So we're going to go with it. So I'll start this off by talking about kind of how I ended up on semi-glutide, where I am now, and what's gone on since. In January of 2022, I found out I was pregnant. I ended up having an abortion in March of 2022, largely because the guy that I found out I was pregnant with did not want to have a child, have anything to do with it, did not want a child in his future. I realized after that point, my hormones were kind of in flux. Your body holds on to the pregnancy even after the abortion, or if you go through a medical abortion, what have you, your body holds on to a lot of hormones, holds on to a lot of water weight. It still thinks you're pregnant past the point that you are pregnant. I then wanted to freeze my eggs to ensure the fact that I could be able to have kids later on. So 3 months later, I froze my eggs. That again, injecting a lot of hormones in you. So there were a lot of issues that year from January through July hormonally. And I gained about 35 pounds during that period. Now, it's hard for me to break down what that 35 pounds is attributed to. I went from 153 to 188, and I'm 5'11", so that's quite a lot of weight, even on a 5'11" frame. It's hard to know, was that weight because of the hormonal changes? Was that weight because of the stress of finding out that I was pregnant and then having an abortion? Was that weight because of egg freezing? Was that weight a combination of all of the above? I also worked at a law firm and was working 12
All
plus hours a day. Yeah. So I can't tell you what the weight gain was attributed to specifically. What I can say is those were the circumstances over a 6-month period. I went from a size 6 to a size 12. I gained 35 pounds. Nothing in my diet changed, nothing in my drinking changed, nothing in my social life changed. But I was definitely experiencing a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, and a lot of hormonal changes. And something along the lines led to a 35-pound weight gain. I kind of was able to get through that period because being 5'11", it was not super noticeable to a lot of people. When I go back and look at photos of myself, I can definitely tell, but I would say most people who knew me, like Brittany knew me at the time, would probably not have guessed that I'd gained 35 pounds.
not at all.
So when I gained it no one was saying anything to me. I wasn't necessarily aware of it until I met with a friend a couple months later who is also an MP who specifically does work with semi-glutides and other peptides. And she was basically like, look, I get it. You might have a hormonal imbalance. These things might be going on. This is the research on semi-glutide, on GLP-1s. Like, do you want to try, see if it works? Like, we can kind of like play with it and see, does this dosage do anything, etc. Also, there are these other benefits. It keeps you more fertile. It has,
Helps with your
potential.
heart. It
It
helps.
helps with your heart. It potentially has a abilities to fight depression. Like, there's all these other benefits that are alongside of it. It curbs cravings, it reduces your alcohol intake, etc. So in May or June of 2023, 2023,
Yeah.
I went on a GLP-1, a semi-glutide compound, and I did not lose a lot of weight at first. I was 188, 190 when I started. I was 176, so I lost about 15 pounds by September. Then I was 160. I lost another 15 pounds by December. And then I was 153, 55 by the following January. So over the course of, 10 months, I lost 35 pounds in combination with working out with weights 3 to 4 times a week, walking 10,000 steps a day, and really prioritizing protein. That's in a nutshell to say that was my experience on semaglutide. This past December, I I've been on a maintenance dose for a while. I stopped taking anything. And from January through today, I've gained about 12 pounds. Now, 12 pounds is not going to make or break me, not the end of the world, but I've noticed I'm still working out as much as I was, if not more. And I've noticed that I'm very inflamed, I'm very bloated. And recently, I've also noticed that my depression has increased. So I met with the same MP that I'd been talking with about this entire process. And she basically was like, let's test your cortisol, let's test all of your, insulin, sugars, et cetera, levels.
Hormones,
And
thyroid, all that.
correct. Let's figure out what the root cause is. At the same time, we can also treat the symptoms. We can put you back on a maintenance dose because feeling bloated sucks, bluntly.
Yeah.
I don't think, if I'm being very truthfully honest, that I gained the weight back because I went off semaglutide. I know plenty of people who've gone off semaglutide and they're fine. And if anything, my weight training and working out has increased, and I'm more conscious of what I'm eating and putting in my body. But I do think that it was masking symptoms and that there's a lot of gut health work that I needed to do that I didn't do the first time around. And also that it was masking some of my like stress imbalances and cortisol levels from when I was working at a law firm and how stressed I was. So long story short is I'm going back on not semaglutide, but a related medication, as well as doing the lab work and the cortisol testing and the gut testing, et cetera, to fix the long-term problem, because the end goal is to not be on any of it, and to have a better understanding of your body.
She's not putting you on phentermine, is she?
No.
Okay. I was just wondering. That just came to my mind. Um, I also think that because of the generation that we kind of grew up in with the diet culture and it always being so, like the Special K diet, Slim Fast, Weight Watchers,
Trim spa.
Trim Spa, baby, like
Hydroxycut.
Oxycontin, I was about to say that. Like, it's interesting because I feel like now that we are in our mid 30s and I've dealt with this as well, I can dive in a little bit too, is that our metabolisms got completely screwed up. And with that, it's what's caused us to have these gut issues in the sense that we are not metabolizing food in the same way because our body is used to maybe being in starvation mode. And so when that happens, it tends to
Hold
hold
on.
on to your fat. So you could be working out and all of this stuff, but if you're not eating a proper amount and your body doesn't know how to metabolize that food correctly, you're not going to lose that fat. It's just going to stay there. And sometimes you're going to hold on to more water weight. And that's the frustrating part, right? Because we're like, and then we're stressed. We're trying to work out more. Well, that's just jacking our cortisol levels up. And that's making it even harder because I personally, like, when I was younger, I struggled a lot with body image. It still creeps in on me. I've gotten a lot better, but it it really changed when I hit 35. And what I used to do stopped working for me. That was HIIT classes. That was all of that. And I went kind of like with Eve, I started kind of freaking out because I was like, newly single, like living in a new city, LA to say the least. That even put more pressure on me. Like, I was like, oh my God, everyone weighs 90 pounds here, And I hate to say that, but I'm going to be honest. Like it wears you down sometimes, and you kind of you think you got to be that thin. And so I met with like a holistic coach, like got all these lab works done. Now my cortisol levels were 4.0 morning, noon, and night. That's the highest they can be. So when I was waking up, they were jacked all the way up already. So like that was insane. They were like, "What are you doing? Are you like running a marathon as soon as you get up?" And I was like, I think I'm just really stressed out about getting fat. You know what I mean? Like heaven forbid. And I probably was about 15 pounds over. I think the largest I got was like 145, 146, and I'm 5'5". So again, I don't know if like people could tell. I tend to carry it more in like my butt and legs and my face and arms, other than my like waist, whereas other people carry it more in their like stomach and things like that. But that can weigh on you, right? And then you like, if you don't feel good about yourself, like, how are you going to show up at times, right? So I was like freaking out, but I really made a point to I got all of those labs done, and I did get a trainer, which I still use. I do have a little bit of an addiction to him, I think, because I'm like, I'm so scared that if I like get away from him, I'm gonna gain the weight back, which I did a little bit in the last few months, and I actually just like rehired him back, if I'm being like bluntly honest. And it's tough out there, but I think it's because we have to break a cycle that's been instilled in us since we were little. Like, and this is no hate to like our parents' generation, but like I grew up in a house where my mother talked a lot about her weight, like,
About,
and
yeah.
when that happens, like I remember I was drinking Slim Fast in 6th grade. Like I would sneak it and like take it in my lunchbox and wrap it in aluminum foil, and I was drinking Slim Fast. In freshman year of college, I was on Weight Watchers. I weighed like maybe 125 pounds, and I was going to Weight Watcher meetings every Friday at noon. Like, what? That's
Well,
ridiculous.
that's the culture that we were ingrained in. And I don't blame my parents, but like to this day, if I go home and we have like Thanksgiving dinner and we eat a lot because it's Thanksgiving dinner and it's one meal, my mom, to a fault, will go, "Mm, I feel," and she'll make a whole like production about it. And she'll be like, can't have dinner. And I'm like, okay, you had one meal on a holiday
Yeah.
with some extra carbs. Like, I grew up, the biggest fights I remember watching my mom and dad get into as a child were my dad wanted a home cooked meal at night for dinner. And my mom would be like, I'm not hungry. I'm not cooking a meal. I'm not hungry. And understanding that in a lot of families, this replicated by cooking a meal and the mom still not eating. But like my mom wouldn't cook the meal because she was like, I'm not hungry. If you're hungry, go cook it. So like proud of you, mom, for standing on that. But at the same
Right.
point, she would eat an apple and a cup of cottage cheese for dinner 4 out of 5 nights a week.
Oh yeah.
And that was normal. Or like she didn't want lunch because she had a big breakfast and her big breakfast was like 2
It's
eggs.
hard boiled eggs.
Correct. And then that becomes ingrained in you. And especially like for me, I was playing multiple sports. I was training to try and play in college. Like, and I like had such a warped understanding. I remember distinctly in high school, I didn't want to pack a lunch because I didn't want to eat a lunch. But obviously, I would get hungry because I was running cross country, playing soccer, etc. I would have a pack of peanut butter M&Ms and a like Diet Coke, and that was like my lunch. And that's like 120,
Nutrition.
200 calories. Like what?
And like what's funny of what I learned, like even a little bit when I had to do like the gut health diet, like about what you're eating and stuff is, well, I found that I was allergic to I was sensitive or allergic to a lot of the things I was eating on a daily basis, but it's because my body wasn't used to metabolizing it the correct way. I still can't eat arugula. Like arugula, for some reason, I bloat like crazy. And I never knew that I was like kind of allergic to that. It's wild. But
And wait,
you
sorry, you did that separate from the like
trainer.
elimination diet? No. I'm saying, how did you find out your sensitivities?
I did a food sensitivity test before starting the elimination diet because
Got
they
it.
want you to stop everything you're sensitive to and
Yeah.
only eat what you can handle to cleanse your gut. And then there's like this powder called like leaky gut. It's called leaky gut syndrome. And they can put it on to help you like cleanse all that out. But like, I wasn't eating anything and I was like starving. And I feel like, well, this is weird. I did it for a little bit. I don't feel like I did it to like its full extent, if I'm being honest. But what I did do is I started, lifting weights and then walking or doing Pilates. I stopped doing those high intensity workouts. And I do think that women, once they hit a certain age, those workouts are not good for you. Like they are only increasing your cortisol levels. And when we get high cortisols with our hormones already kind of creeping into what the word we hate to say that comes in our late 40s, early 50s, if we're all lucky, is, the menopause thing. So you have
Right.
to be like very conscious of all of that along on top of like your thyroid and things like that. But what's interesting about the food stuff where we would tend to eat less is that we actually need to be eating a whole lot more.
Yeah.
And that
Right.
is so
That's
hard to
hard.
train your mind.
That's so hard. And I think that like a couple points on that. The first is that it's interesting for me. So when I go to HIIT classes, I no longer do the cardio really. Like I'm there, but I don't want to do the jacking up and down of the
Yeah,
heart
I'm
rate.
not
Like
doing
I don't want to do
burpees,
that.
none
Right.
of that. Yeah.
So But it's so important for women to lift weights. Like I go to HIIT classes just to get the weightlifting in like all the muscle groups, right? But I very strategically like, and I've never explained that to the instructor, but I don't do the cardio because I'm like, I'm not trying to spike my heart rate. Like all I'm trying to do is get the weightlifting in, and you're going to tell me the different muscles and the different movements. Whereas if I go to the gym, I'm going to be a little bit lost, even though I've been doing this for years. But and I think that that's something that people don't realize. You can go to the gym and you can do what your body needs. So many of us go to the gym and we feel like, oh, we're at Barry's. We have to fucking go 12 on the treadmill. You don't.
You
Do
don't.
what your body needs, because most likely that class is for the standard average person, which is a higher cortisol level than a woman and a lower cortisol level than a man. Like, do you know what I mean? Like it's not meant for you. And I think so many people are afraid to break out of that.
That's so funny that you just said that, because literally at the gym this morning with the trainer, we were talking about that, how like everybody kind of leans on these apps on their phone. Well, that app is kind of that person's workout for their body, them. It doesn't mean that if you do just Coco Pilates or you do sweat, all of that,
No.
you're going to look like those people. That's just a
What works for
flat
them.
based workout, you know? And that's something that was interesting to me, because I used to rely a lot on those apps, but I wasn't ever getting the results. And I don't lift super heavy when I go to the gym. Like I do try to a little bit, but I'm not trying to be like a bodybuilder woman or like one of those chicks, you know, but it is important to recognize like where your limits are, one, so you don't hurt yourself, and two, so that it could get the best benefit for like your body type. And I just think that that's really, really important. And again, like we've talked about that, like we're not obviously experts on like lifting weights and nutrition, but like I've done my fair share of research. Like you got to eat protein, whether that's through plant-based protein, if you want to do Impossible or beans, or that's through meat. Like meat's not going to hurt you, you know?
Sorry, I was about to burp. So one thing, and I want to make sure I say this before I forget. So I've been listening to a lot of podcasts on gut health recently, and because I'm not kidding you when I say I feel like I was blown up by a balloon in the past week or two. I'm not sure what's going on. I am like gassy. It's not good. And
Not
so
pregnant.
no. So I've been Googling different, gut health things. And I ended up on a podcast by Mel Robbins with a dietitian in gut health. She has like 2 doctorates in nutrition, et cetera. And one of the things she said that I'd never known or thought about, but it makes a lot of sense, is she was talking about our gut being kind of like this ecosystem, like the wild forest or the rainforest or whatnot. There are a million different plants or whatnot, and those are the million different bacteria inside of our gut. When you give a prebiotic to your gut, it's as though you're in a crop duster dropping seed over the gut, hoping something lands, hoping something fertilizes, hoping something grows. But you're not actually giving it the necessary food and resources to flourish. And it's why I never understood the difference. And this is the point I'm making. I never knew the difference between a prebiotic and a probiotic. But a probiotic is basically throwing the seeds out.
Right.
A prebiotic is basically the fertilizer that makes your stomach ready to grow the seeds. If you throw seeds out and you don't water them, you don't fertilize them, you don't give them any food, they're not going to grow. They're not going to flourish. They're going to die. And you're not going to reap the benefit. So what she was getting at, and then when I talked to my nutritionist today, what the conversation I had with her was getting at was that, yes, probiotics are great, but everyone has latched on this idea of a probiotic and they haven't realized that you have to kind of like prep your stomach to receive the seed.
Because I do think that sometimes it can make you bloat, the probiotic.
Yeah. And we have so many different bacteria in our stomach, and my bacteria are different from your bacteria, and all of our bacteria are different, that the best way to get the probiotics and the prebiotics is through food, through natural raw food. But obviously we all want to speed up the process, et cetera. And I just thought that was really interesting because I never understood that. And it was like, oh, I'm taking your probiotic. And it's like, well, yeah, imagine if you just threw a whole bunch of seed at the ground, how much do you expect to grow? Versus if you actually potted and planted it and fermented it and, watered it and took care of the seed with what it needed. And so, anyways, not that I'm a doctor or know anything what I'm talking about, but I just thought that this like idea that a probiotic is going to fix it all is lacking a lot. I think that's a way in which mainstream media tries to get us to buy more things. Like, here's a bottle of probiotics, it's going to make you poop. And the reality is, like, there's so many more
or it's
things.
Gonna like de-bloat you or whatever,
And
all
it's like, well, along with you drinking water and also getting the prebiotic and also walking, you know what I mean? And so I didn't know that. And that was news to me to know that they worked in conjunction and understand more visually why.
It's crazy how much your gut really does play a role in so many things. Like even your like skin, like if you're purging in different areas of your face, that can be an indication of your gut health. And that's something that I recently learned, that if you are having like severe acne and I forget in what part, I want to say like this is hormonal in the lower part of your face and like up in your cheeks and everything is more like your gut health. So like that was a fun fact that I learned recently.
All 4 of my zits.
Which are all like on your mid face. And I will say like one of my biggest issues is I don't drink enough water. So like if I probably would flush out my gut more, it would have helped that sooner. But that's a really hard habit to start once you've never really drank a ton of water. And I'm a coffee drinker. Like I love my coffee. So it's just interesting.
You know what I'll say about that? The reason I didn't drink water for so long when I was in college was because short term it bloated me. Short term I held on to it. So if I'm going out that night, I don't want to, I mean, this is horrible, but short term, I don't want 20 ounces of water in my stomach. I'm wearing a skirt and a crop top and a tank. You know what I mean? So
or you wouldn't eat because you're going to drink your calories.
Yeah. And then long term, it absolutely wreaks havoc on your body. I will say at 36, I'm still struggling with that. I'm still struggling with, even if I drink tonight, I still have to eat. I'm still struggling with, I need to drink the water, even though it's going to bloat me because it's going, it's going to flush out toxins. It's going to be good for my hydration. It's going to be good for my skin. Like, I'm struggling with that. And I don't think enough people talk about the fact that we can preach all the stuff that me and you are saying right now, but we're all still fucking struggling with it.
Oh, God, you know me, like if I don't feel like if I feel bloated and gross, it can, I'm one of those people that it can ruin my whole day. Like, and
but
that's
I think most women, to be fair.
I won't even go out. Like if I won't even leave my house. Like I am miserable acting. Eve can attest to this. And it's ridiculous, right? Like no one can tell that 5 pounds. No one. But if I feel like my face is puffy or I've put on 5-6 pounds, my whole day is ruined. And that's a hard thing to get over. And it's also hard to like, I'm 38 years old. Like I'm not going to weigh or look what I looked like when I was 25.
Nor should
and
you.
that's okay.
Like, nor should you.
Yeah. Like I sit here and I'd be like, I've had these jeans since I was in college and I can still wear them. Okay. Like, why am I holding on to those skinny jeans? Like,
no, it's like the meme that's like, where's my prize? And it's like, there isn't one. Like, you're not supposed to be able to.
I literally will still pull those jeans out of my closet and put them on every now and then to see if they still fit. And if they still fit, then I'm like, okay, I'm good. And like, that's a hair problem. That's not a gut problem,
Yeah, no, I hear you in more ways and I think that so many women do it secretly at this point. Like I would say like our culture also emphasized eating disorders, but like the extremes. What they didn't talk about was the trim spa, the hydroxycut, the almond moms, all of that, and how these are also disordered eating.
Disorders, yeah.
Right? This is also body dysmorphia.
Food. I'm a huge person. I trash my food, like to this day. Like Eve calls me out on it. Like I'll lay a napkin over it. And she's like, don't trash that. Like I'm not done or something, And I'm like, but it's like out of sight, out of mind for me because I'll like keep picking at it. And if I'm like, no, I don't need any more of that, I'll like try to do that. But I remember when I was younger, we would like pour water on it, like
salt, pepper, hot sauce, whatever. Like get rid of it.
Yeah. I mean, It's interesting, but what's also interesting is that I think it helps to make sure you do, if you are someone that suffers a little bit of body image, like even like look at who you're surrounding yourself with too, because if your friends are also really hyper conscious on all that, that can wear off on you, and that can make you, when you might feel like you're doing okay, it can bring you back down here. And so like that's something I've learned too, is like hang out with people that make you feel good about yourself and that don't put so much emphasis on like weight and making sure you look like you're 12.
Fair. On that note, I have to go on a date, allegedly. Uh,
Well, I had a date tonight and you canceled.
but I love you,
I love
and I will talk to you after my date.
you. Okay.